Greetings and in Lakesh. As of recent, OfTheSun has released a new frequency water named Veritas. To preface, frequency healing waters is a union of water and frequency, bonding the intelligence of frequency to the living form of water. This is the perfect vehicle for delivering the living intelligence of light, thus giving us the opportunity to improve, increase, and broaden our bandwidth by adding powerful frequencies that serves us in our pursuit of evolution. When using this water, you are immediately in that frequency, within the experience of the carrier of living holographic intelligence, therefore expanding your consciousness. Within this audio, you will hear authentic experiences of individuals using the frequency water Veritas. Veritas is a Latin term meaning truth or truthfulness. This tool will aid humanity with moving back into the awareness of seeking the truth within their experience. Greetings and in Lakesh. This is my experience of the Veritas frequency water. So initially, before spraying the bottle, I held it in my left hand to feel and engage with the frequency of the contents. And as I'm holding it, I can feel the frequency traveling throughout my body. But it was most notable in my throat area. I could feel this buildup of energy and a release happening within my throat. And as I tuned into that area, the information that was being revealed was Veritas is assisting me with expressing my truth. And when I say express my truth, it was revealed multidimensional, not just through speaking. Every manner of expression, self-expression, the way I view myself, the way I perceive myself, the way I perceive my reality, and my connection to my reality that I'm experiencing. It not only shared the information of the necessity to speak truth in all things, but to see truth or ascertain the truth in what I'm hearing from others, as well as myself, whether they're my own thought forms or thought forms being sent from others, and to discern truth from falsehood, to build upon the understanding, to build upon the awareness within time and space. So that was rather cool. And as I decided to spray 3 sprays in my mouth of the frequency water Veritas, and as I sprayed this frequency, I could feel the energy that I initially felt just by holding it. It was amplified tenfold. And I could feel a release happening, not just in my throat, but throughout my entire body. And the feeling of this frequency was comparable. It took me back to a time I was actually asking myself, where do I know this frequency from? This feeling that I'm engaged with. And it took me to a time to where I was withholding information. I was coveting or holding something in secrecy, and I finally had the opportunity to share this information, to speak my truth that I've been holding on to for a very long time. And the feeling that one gets from releasing or expressing the truth that has been withheld, it's euphoric. It's like a weight lifted off of your shoulders, and you can feel yourself rise. It's as if the weight of the lie has been anchored or tethered to your ankle, and you cut it, and you start to ascend and float to the top so you can breathe, because lies are suffocating. Lies, even as I say this, that withholding is a suffocation of the expression of truth. So this was such an awesome experience for myself, and that was my experience with Veritas.
Okay, this is my experience with Veritas, and the first thing I saw was a mirage open up beside me, and I felt just this waves of energy like off to my left, and so I look over and I see an image of myself in the mirage. And then the mirage kept like flickering, and I was seeing myself at different points in time, like getting younger and younger and younger and younger. Now all of this was flipping through extremely fast, but while it was flipping through, there was this energy that almost looked like needle points, or like the rays of the sun. Like if you were to draw the rays of the sun, how there'd be just these little lines sticking out. They were like these little needle point like energy that was moving into each image, and for lack of a better way of saying it, almost stabbing something or skewering something and pulling it out. And this was all like extremely fast, so it was almost like flipping pages of a book, where I would see an image of myself and it was just boom, be gone. And it was hard to really ascertain exactly what was happening, but it was because of how fast the images were flickering, but I could just tell it was me getting younger. And with each flicker I would see this energy dart in, hit something, then come back out, pull something, come back out. So I said, well, what is this? And the response I got back was that we are removing the false ideas out of your body. And I was like, man, out of my body, because that's exactly what it looked like. Even through the images and how fast it was moving, it was almost like it was piercing literally into my body. And I was like, man, that's interesting, because the emphasis was on body. And then it went all the way to when I was a baby, and then it looked like it started flipping into other lives. These were images that I've never seen before, but I could tell that it was me, and different backgrounds and colors that I just not aware of. But again, I knew it was me, and it was doing the same thing. And he said, we're going all the way to the beginning. Then after it went on for a while, and it stopped, and the mirage kind of closed, and I saw this energy basically come towards me. All these little rays of energy, these thin little points, and they started basically pushing into my body, and I could feel like this little tingling and like little pressures, and just all over, pressure and a little tingling. And it felt like it was literally going like bone deep and then come right back out. And I could see, kind of like the same way that water can bead up on something, like say for instance a needle, right before it drops off the needle, you see it bead up. That's what it looked like, but it was like little dark specks, and it was just pushing into my body and coming right back out. And so I asked again. I was like, man, what is this? And he said, well, these are things that you say to yourself, or things that your body says that aren't true. And then I got like a couple examples, like saying I am hungry, but really it's I am thirsty. Or I need more nutrients, for the bones, but none is really needed. In other words, these things that are being emitted or communicated within the body that aren't true. And then I also had received that the understanding said this is the only way to reach full alignment, where everything is speaking the truth as it is, and it all moves together because it was made to move together within a singular truth. But currently everything is saying something different that conflicts with one another or pulls away from one another, or the lies. And I was like, man, that's something else, because it was saying even within the actual body itself, it needed to pull the lies or align it to truth. And I even saw it, it was one particular point that went straight into the middle of my head. And it felt like it went right into the middle. And I really asked again. I was like, oh my goodness, what is this one? And the response I got back was, this is the lie of saying I can't see. And I said, And right after that, right after it pulled all the way out, even though my eyes were closed, I could see, and this was just for a moment, I could see like a 360, like all the way around me. I could see in front of me, to the left and to the right, and to the back, all simultaneously. Like I was able to see literally like all around me. And usually I'm just used to the perception of looking forward, so to say, but I was able to see all around me. It was mind-blowing at that moment. And then everything kind of like disappeared, or the sensations, everything stopped after that point. I kind of came back into focus. So that was my experience. Okay, now this was me taking the frequencies that I had just received of Veritas to the trees. I have a tree out front in my lawn, and so I go out to do the regular working, so to say, with the tree. And then afterwards, I said, asked the tree, well, can I give you this new frequency that I just experienced of Veritas? And the tree was like, well, why? So I was like, because I think it's cool to do. I had a nice experience with it, and I think it might be helpful to you. And it's so you can, further know the truth. And he said, okay. And then I was like, all right, well, here we go. And I transmitted this frequency to the tree. And I did that for a moment. And my eyes were closed at this moment, and I could, feel the tree, the presence of the tree. And I was actually touching the tree. And then I see it basically get up and start moving. And I do recall Lotus sharing with me before that trees can walk, but this was my first time actually seeing it, a tree moving in this fashion. And it went across the street. Now this is a singular tree, probably about 13, 14 feet high and probably about 8 or 9 feet wide. So it's a relatively smaller tree in comparison to, of course, other trees. And it was a solitary tree in the lawn. It went across the street to another solitary tree and looked like it was hugging it. And I said, what's going on? And the tree's response was, it said, since it had been planted, by humans, since it had been planted, it was of the understanding that it couldn't move, that it had to stay stationary. That was its only purpose, was to sit there or stand there in that one position. But in receiving this, it gave it a different clarity, because it seen other trees kind of moving around, but it thought it couldn't do so. So its first impulse was to go across the street and hug the other tree who was similar to it and of the same understanding. So both of them kind of moved out into the middle of the street, center point between each other, because this is a tree in my yard and a tree in the other across the street yard, and they're both kind of in the middle hugging each other. And so I just, sitting there smiling. I was like, wow, I had to open my eyes and look a couple of times, and I just kept seeing two trees in the middle of the road hugging each other. And the tree looked at me and said, well, can I come into your house to see what it's like in there? I said, sure. So now I have a roughly 15-foot tall tree in the living room, seeing what it's like to be inside of a house. So that was my experience with the frequencies of Veritas.
First, it felt like something had hit me that expanded into my head, raised. It felt as if my scalp was raising up very high, and then I could feel it go through my body. I was sitting in the chair and it pushed me back. The force of it pushed me back instead of just sitting, straight up. I remained in that position for a couple of minutes, maybe about 3 or 4 minutes, because of the strength of the frequency. And after that, I could feel the frequency tunneling through parts of my brain as if it was searching out. And even though I knew it was a frequency, it actually felt like someone was walking through my brain. Apparently, it came to the first part of a lie that had been stored in me, and I could feel it. It felt almost like it was pulling it out. And then I felt my head moving from left to right as if it was, yanking my head back and forth to get all of it that was in that spot. Then I felt it go deeper. And when it began to go deeper, I felt it along my neck, inside what seemed to be like a carotid artery. It felt like it was going down my neck, and the next thing I felt a little nauseous in my stomach. area, and I was trying to follow the energy as it was going through my body, but I lost it at one point. I couldn't keep up because at the same time, it wasn't just going after one thing, it was going after multiple areas in my head. And I'm just now, even though I can feel it in my body still working, I'm just now able to really talk, because at first, when it first hit me, I couldn't talk. I couldn't say anything. It was like I was caught in this, it felt like I was caught in a bubble. And then at the same time, having the feeling like there was a very strong person walking in my head, just picking up these lies, these untruths, and just yanking it out. And right now, I feel as if I need some water. I don't really feel. I feel like I'm still floating. So I think I'm going to take a sip of water so I can get myself grounded. But this was just really very visceral, very, that this was a frequency going in to pull out some things that are really harming us and not allowing us to see the truth. I also noticed that something that's in my room that I had never noticed before, all of a sudden I could see it. It's like there's a book in my room on the bookshelf. I've looked at this bookshelf hundreds of times, and I'm just seeing this emblem on the binders, on the the side of the book. I'm just seeing the symbol, and I know the book has been there, but I never saw the symbol before. And it's like glaring at me right now. So that's very interesting. My overall view of things, how I'm looking at things, seems clearer. I don't know, and I have my glasses on, but everything seems clearer, and I'm just wondering how I didn't see the symbol on the book before, because it is like glaring at me, so much so that the symbol is on, it's red and white, and it's like there's no way I could have missed this before, but I did. So that's very interesting. It's almost like something that was hidden is now revealed. Very nice. Very nice. I want to also mention that, like, when I first received the frequency, it kind of reminded me of being on a roller coaster. Like, when you do that dip down, or you have that free fall when you're going down. And for some reason, when it came into my body, I just felt, I can't really explain that any other way, but that was at the very beginning. Like it was going to give me a level of freedom that I've never had before. Now that the initial experience has passed, it has subsided some, I'm sitting here and I feel lighter. I feel as if I have more space in my chest. That's different. And I just feel an overwhelming sense of gratitude, wanting to say thank you. Thank you, Lauta, for this phenomenal gift. I call it a gift because it feels as if it's creating space within inside of my body, another level of lightness or light within the body. I never realized just how much energy it takes to support a lie. It takes a tremendous amount of energy, and I think that's where the freedom comes from. The feeling of freedom comes from releasing all of the energy that has to support the lie. This is groundbreaking in Lakesh.